Okay, welcome to the final go-to session for the month. Yay! This is actually a re-recording of the session I just gave because there was an error early on in the session that I didn't even realize, so the recording was completely lost. So I'm mostly speaking to myself right now. I will cover the exact same information that I just went over in this session. The only flaw is that some people asked some really interesting questions during this session, and unfortunately you won't be able to hear those. You won't be able to see their chat comments because I'm just doing a strict screen recording right now, but I'll try to cover the same issues that they brought up. But I will be covering the same materials, so don't worry. Mostly this final go-to session, which will be a little bit on the short side because I don't have as much to cover in this session, is mostly about the final project, okay? Your actual multimedia public service announcement, but because there are some additional requirements that need to be handed in addition to the actual PSA, I need to be sure that you're aware of that. But let me start with some really just basic reminders. If we go to the activities page, okay, so here we are. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom so we get to week 4. The final project you can see is set to be due on December 21st, which is a Sunday. Technically, if you're a campus student, things end for you on Friday the 19th. If you're an online student, the course ends on Sunday the 21st. But because this course is entirely online, I've just set the final due date to be the 21st. If you're a campus student and you need that Friday, Saturday, Sunday to continue working on things, that's fine. In fact, if you need to go a bit beyond this date, just as you've done in the past, just send me a message and I can extend this a bit so you can produce the best work possible. But the final due date is set for the 21st. But I'm not going to be doing anything over the holidays. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be here in Orlando watching lots of college football bowl games every day and not doing much else. So it's not really a big problem if people need a little bit of flexibility here with the final due date. Also, I'm trying to make my way through your essays. I know I'm a tiny bit behind. I apologize for that. I'm trying to keep my comments reasonable, meaning I'm not asking anybody to start from scratch or change topics or anything like that. I'm trying to give you the best advice that I can so that even if my feedback comes, hopefully I can make a big dent tonight, Tuesday, and finish things up tomorrow, Wednesday, so that gives people still Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday to work on the PSA. But if there is anything about my feedback that makes you think, oh, I need a little bit more extra time, just let me know, okay? I can be flexible with this 21st due date. Even though Full Sail kind of closes its doors, its physical doors, for the holidays, the FSO platform is still alive. You can still upload things. You can still send me messages. Even if it did awkwardly shut down for some technical error, you could always email me things. So I can be a bit flexible with this date here. But I am trying to get through the essays as quickly and thoroughly as possible. Okay, so let me return back to the PowerPoint presentation. Let's see. Let's talk a little bit about editing versus revising. Okay? There's a pretty big difference between the two, which is captured in these two images here. Editing is more of the small stuff. Okay, it's fixing commas that are in the wrong place, making sure that words are spelled correctly. It's the sort of lower order concerns. That's editing, focusing on the small things that need to be repaired. Revising, as I've captured here in this image, which kind of looks like the Eye of Sauron from the Lord of the Rings movies. You can tell it's something much bigger, much larger, okay? You can even see that the word vision is in the word revising. Okay, so really we're talking about seeing things completely anew. And why is this important? Because you only write one essay for this course, which makes some people celebrate, right? That sounds awesome. Wow, only one essay. Great. I thought this class was going to be filled with essay after essay after essay. So for some people it's great news. For others, it's sort of troubling because if you didn't do your strongest work on the essay, you don't really have a chance to go back and revise it or even edit it because we're moving on to the next step, which is the actual public service announcement itself, which will take the form of a song, a film, and a podcast, a comic, what have you. In a way, that's your revision of the essay to a certain degree, but it's somewhat different as well, and I'd like to talk about that. Because we're done with the essay, and because we're moving on to a completely different form, it means you're going to have to think about things anew. It's not that you entirely have to build a house from scratch, but it's almost like you have to remodel that house, which is what I'm trying to show here in this image. For example, let's say in your essay you made this terrific opening move of using a personal story or a personal anecdote. But maybe that doesn't really work very well with your actual multimedia public service announcement. Maybe that doesn't work very well in the comic format. Or maybe it's difficult to capture that or express that in film. Okay? So part of your challenge here is to see things anew. You're still dealing with the same topic, whatever your industry specific topic is. You're still delivering the same message, what you want a specific audience to do about this problem. But you sort of have to look at things completely differently. You're going to have to look at your essay, decide what are the most powerful points or the most important points, and you'll have to decide what's the best way to deliver those points, which may be very different, or maybe it won't be so very different than what you did in your essay. But most of you will probably be making significant decisions, changes, etc. For instance, if you're creating a comic, comics tend to be story driven. Okay? There's nothing more underwhelming about a comic that just features a generic person standing there in panel after panel just delivering information, right? That's not really taking advantage of the comic's form. Some tools like Powtoon are sort of in between, where it's technically presentation software more than comic software. So some people will tell a story using Powtoons. Others will treat it more like almost like a hybrid video slash cartoon slash, I don't know, informative piece. So it may not literally tell a story necessarily, but it uses the full range of tools that Powtoon offers in order to deliver information, right? A unique combination of visuals and wording. But whatever your chosen format is, the film, the song, the podcast, you'll probably have to make different decisions, and you'll have to decide not just what your information is going to be, but how you're going to present it. Even with the film, some people decide to describe things in a sketch, or maybe part of the video is a sketch. In the podcast, maybe it takes the form of a radio style show or a one-on-one interview, right? So you can have stories in place, you can have a concept in place, but basically you need to sort of brainstorm these ideas, because I must be doing a better job of this, because I get very, very few submissions where people just literally turn on a microphone and read their essay out loud, or close to it. I see very few submissions where people just turn on their laptop camera and do the equivalent of sort of rehashing their essay. Most people get this, but this is just a strong reminder that you really have to focus on revision, okay? Seeing things anew. So I think this leads into our first quiz question, which is, what is the difference between editing and revising, and how is this difference important for the final PSA project? Okay, so I essentially am looking for you to echo what I've just discussed. What is the difference between editing and revising? And why is that important for this project? And I think another quiz question is coming next. I can't remember, but I think so. How will the delivery of your topic need to change from essay to multimedia PSA? Okay, so the first question is broader. What's the difference between editing and revising, and why is that important? It's different. But two is asking you really to think about what you're going to need to change as you move from essay to project. Okay, I want you to start thinking about this now, because the earlier you start thinking about it, the less chance there is that it will be Sunday and you're just creating something off the top of your head, and then you really begin to understand the difference between essay and project once it's handed in and I give you your feedback. So I want you to start thinking about this now. What sorts of things will need to change as you move from one format to another? Okay, so there's question number 2. And we're moving on. Okay, we're not completely done with APA citation. I covered the bulk of it in week 2, right? How to format, how to set up your paper, how to go into the Full Sail Library database, how to use that nifty citation generator function to help you create a proper APA citation. But we need to revisit APA, because if you use any outside materials, mostly that would be images and music, these materials need to be cited as well. I need to repeat something that I said toward the end of the week 3 session. Remember, we are only talking about allowable images and music. So even if that music is royalty free, it still needs to be cited. Even if that music or image came from a Creative Commons site, it still needs to be cited. Anything that's copyrighted is completely off limits. So if you find a cool photo, but it's labeled all rights reserved, you can't use it. You shouldn't just be using Google to search for images and taking those images without knowing what the full rights are involved. Same thing with music, okay? I think I joked last time. I love that Megan Trainor song. I love the new Taylor Swift song, Blank Space. What else do I like in the top 40 currently? So much so. What's that Tove Lo song? I forget the name of it. Something High. That's a good song too, but I don't want to hear it in your public service announcement. Okay, no copyrighted music at all. But if you find allowable images or music and you do use it as part of your public service announcement, it needs to be cited. And I'm going to show how to do that in just a second. But first, and these 3 bullet points might have to deal with a quiz question, so take a screenshot, jot down some notes, but here's the importance of citation. First, it's a requirement for this course. It's actually a requirement at Full Sail. Like, you'll revisit these concepts in other courses if you haven't done so already. So, A, it's a requirement. B, you need to give credit to those who have helped you create your project. Even if that image is allowable, fine, that's great, you can use it, but you should still give credit. Same thing for music. If it's part of a database like the Westar Music Database, which I showed in the week 3 session, great, but we still need to cite it. And this is also preparation for all of your industries. Most of you are going into fields, music, graphic design, film, where you'll have to deal with these issues. Literally using APA format? No, probably not, but the idea of giving credit. If you ever watch what are those gossip shows like Entertainment Tonight? Is that still on the air? Or doesn't TMZ have a show? Or you know what's better? Sports. Like if you're watching ESPN or MLB Network or NFL Network, you always see these things at the end where it shows, video courtesy of, and then you get a whole list of things like NBC Sports, Fox Sports, right? So they give credit. No, they don't do so in APA format, of course, but they do give credit. So it's important to give credit. And finally, others might find your sources useful. I mean, it's strange, but sometimes I'll see a picture somewhere and it leads me somewhere, and then that takes me somewhere. Or maybe the picture is so interesting it takes me to a new rich database that I've never found before. Or if you're just sort of the nerdy academic type like I am, and it's an article, sometimes the sources you use in your article are useful for me. It doesn't happen often, but sometimes I read your articles that you've actually referenced in your paper. Okay. I go there to check it out for different reasons, but then I end up reading the whole stupid thing. So others might find your sources useful. Okay, so those are the 3 big reasons. So let's talk about how to cite these things. First of all, music. I would pay less attention to the stuff up here. It's just a generic example of what needs to be included, and maybe pay more attention to this example, because as you'll see, it's really following the exact same logic that you used when you had to create citations for articles. It's just instead of an author, we have a composer. We have a year for the composition, the title of the track or song, okay, and we follow APA conventions for capitalization when it comes to titles on the references page. So only the first word in a title gets capitalized. All other words are in lowercase, unless like a proper name appears. If, I don't know, Taylor Swift's name appears in the middle of a title, of course you'd capitalize her name, just as you would do in any normal sentence. There's a name for this album. We put in brackets the type of media that it is. You can put sound recording or MP3, but it just lets us know what this is. Okay, because normally we can figure it out. If Letting Loose was an article from the New York Times, we would know that. If it's from the journal of such and such, we would know it's from a journal. Here we're just identifying that it is in fact a song, and thus it's a sound recording. And this actually came from the Westar Music Database. And let me go there real quickly, because I do have anywhere from 5 to 10 students who make use of it. Let me open up a new window. Okay, so I'm going to go to Full Sail Connect and enter the Full Sail Library database. I showed this last week, how to get to Westar Music Database, but I want to show how you can go into a specific track and find information from it. And even if you, I think this should be your #1 place to go for music files, but if you can show me another source that's trusted, meaning that it has allowable files and you can clear it by me, I might okay it. But so even if you find it somewhere else, you'll still follow the same logic that I'm showing you now. Okay, so I'm going down to Westar, which is near the bottom. Okay, and we're entering. I'm already logged in because I logged in a little bit earlier. I'm just going to pick one of these at random. It would be nice to find the one that I actually showed in the session, but I'm not seeing it off the top of my head. Okay, let me just click on any of these. So rock, most wanted. And as you can see here, we have lots of different tracks. Hot on Your Heels, Shattered Glass, Most Wanted. And, you know, I mean, it sounds silly, but pick a musical style that's appropriate. Maybe rock isn't the best soundtrack to have for your incredibly sad PSA on, I don't know, whatever your topic is. But once we're in, let's say you love this track, Hot on Your Heels. If we click on the song itself, it gives us more information about the track. Okay, and as we can see, it has all the information we need. It has a date. Let me blow this up a little bit. 2014. Okay, there is a composer, Franz Kramer. There's an album title, Rock, Most Wanted. There's a publisher, Westar Music Publishing. Okay, and the song obviously has a title as well, Hot on Your Heels. So we have all the information that we need to go back in and create our APA style reference. Okay, this is a different song, but you just have to replace this with, you know, for example, Hot on Your Heels. Okay, the indentation got all screwed up, but you get the gist. So it's that easy. And same thing for images. Same logic applies. Oh, this is left over from the last session. Oops. Let me go back to that. I'm going to call this person. Actually, let me copy that and save it. Smith J. We'll just call him Joe Smith. Okay? So same logic applies here. Yeah. Right? We don't have an author, but we have a photographer. We have a year for the photo. We have a title for the photograph. It's not always included. You may not have a title. We label the media type so we know what it is, and we just put a retrieve from line, just like you would do, for instance, if you found an article online, you know, searching using Google instead of the Full Sail Library database. You just have a retrieve from line. And I think I told you should be searching for images in one of two places, right? The AP Images database is part of the library, or compfight.com. I'm already on Compfight, so let me go there and do a search for puppies. Oh, this happens a lot. By the way, anything above the dotted line, again, don't touch because you actually have to pay for that stuff. It's just a plug for different sites. You want things that are below the dotted line. Always make sure that you have Creative Commons selected because that will make sure that you only get results that are permissible, allowable. But you may not have noticed it there, but another window opened. I didn't actually get a search result for puppies because every so often it does this annoying thing where it brings up that other site that it's trying to plug. So I just need to X off of that, go back in, search again, even though it's annoying, and I should get some results of lots and lots of cute animals. Oh, look at them. Which one should I use? I want to find the same photo I used in just the last session. But then they rearrange the photos. It's like they scramble the photos and shuffle them so I don't see the same ones again. What happens if I search for it one more time? Okay, doesn't matter. I'm just going to go into one of these to show. Which one do I like? How about this guy here? Okay, so this is what we need, right? Some rights reserved. That tells us that we can use this photo. We just have to get credit for it. If you accidentally don't click on the Creative Commons tab to the left, you might see something that says all rights reserved. Those you can't use. Okay, those are completely copyrighted. But some rights reserved is okay. Then you can choose your download size. The other thing that we need here is normally if we were building a website, we need to copy and paste this entire HTML language into our website. But I'm just going to dig into it and grab the URL. Okay, which is always easy to spot because it begins with like HTTPS www, and it's typically surrounded by quotation marks, so I try to leave those out. So I'm just going to copy it. I'm going to plug it back into my browser. Okay, and that will take us to the photo itself where we can get all the pertinent information that we need. Here we have what we need. Okay, here's the person's name who took the photo. There is a title. I don't know how that dog is. I know nothing about dogs. Is that Corgi? Is that how you say it? Corgi Puppy 79? Okay, so that's the title of the photo. We have a date, 2013. So again, we have everything we need to just plug things in here. Okay, we'd put his name in there. What was his name? Daniel Stockman, right? So this would be Stockman D, and this would be changed to 2013. Okay. Right, so we'd have to change a lot of those details, the title and everything, put in the specific URL for this photo, but we have everything we need. The joke I was making before is that sometimes you'll go into a photo and there won't be an actual real name here. It'll be like their online moniker, which is just a fancy word for whatever, online handle you use. And if they have a wacky handle or a goofy handle, well, so be it. You'll just put it in there. So, oops, I lost it. So if someone calls themselves Hot Mama 97, that would be the author's name. As ridiculous as it looks, okay, that's what we'd use for the author's name. But as you can see, I mean, it's basically the same rules we were following for creating references for articles. We're just adapting it for music and image files. But you will need an APA references page handed in with your final project, and it should include any of the sources that you use to write your essay, because even if you don't quote from them directly in your actual PSA, they still helped inform your understanding of the topic, so they should be listed on the references page, plus whatever images or music that you use. Which is going to lead me into just 1 second as soon as I deliver the next quiz question of what you need to hand in for the final project. Okay, so here's quiz question number 3. Why is it important to cite? So think back a couple slides ago. I listed 3 things, 3 reasons it's important to cite. That's the answer I'm looking for. Okay, I'm just going to let this linger for a few seconds because it's such a short question. It shouldn't take people very long to jot down at all. Okay, so let's move forward. Your final project portfolio, the thing that's actually due on the 21st, there's more required than just the actual PSA itself. It's happening less often because I scream really loud and often about this, but I thank God I see fewer and fewer people who just hand in the PSA and nothing else. There are actually more things that you need to do other than just submit your public service announcement. So let's explore what those are. And the best way to show this is to go to the activities page, go into the final project. Oh, actually, let me go back for 1 second and show something else. Don't forget about this little activity here called PSA examples. Okay, because if you go in this, you can see what past students have done. I just updated it with 2 recent examples from students from last month, including this first guy here, who did a really nice video. Okay. Let me see if I can go there real quickly. You won't be able to hear sound because sound can't carry over. At least I don't think it can carry over. But you can see he actually shot his own footage, opened with a little bit of a sketch. As we get into the video, you'll see he has a really impressive... I don't even know how he created this, but he's shot against like a blue screen. It has text that appears on the page. He has a prepared script that he's delivering. It's a really, really terrific video. So... if people want to look at an example of like an A quality public service announcement, there's one that you can click on in the PSA examples area. I'm trying to skip around. See, he has important text that appears from time to time to supplement what he's saying. This is a really outstanding project. I'm not saying that everything has to meet this high standard because this was really a Herculean effort, but there's an example to look at. This one's pretty good too. This is a video. This came in last month. It's a song. It's a great example of a song because it's doing everything that a song requires. Like it's a song, obviously, but it also delivers a very, very clear message. Like you're not confused or lost at all. It's 100% literal, entirely concrete, and it serves to deliver a message. And there are some others you can look through. So don't forget about that. Okay, but let's go into the final project itself. I'm going to close some windows. Final project. Okay. First of all, you get a reminder of what you need to be including. That you need an APA cover page. You'll need a link to your multimedia final project. Okay, so if you have a film, you'll probably upload it to something like YouTube or Vimeo. You just need to give me the link. If you create a song or a podcast, probably you'll use something like SoundCloud. You'll just give me the link. If you created a comic using like Powtoon or Pixton or Bitstrips, those two, I just need a link to the actual wherever the comic is. I guess the only thing that's a little bit different is if you hand draw a comic and you end up scanning it and using Photoshop or Illustrator to add finishing touches or to add professional looking comic text. Most people who tackle a project like that know quite a bit about digital art, but they'll often like upload their final project to an image hosting site and give me the link to that. One warning, make sure that your link works. There are always a handful of students that I literally need to like call on the phone and say, hey, I need to grade your public service announcement, but I can't get to it because when I click on your link, I get an error. Usually because the sharing settings aren't set up properly, right? So it's a YouTube video, but you've made it private instead of public or something like that. So make sure that your links are working. I'll need a copy of your script or lyrics. The comic doesn't need this because all the text will be in the comic itself. An APA style references page where you include the sources that you used to write your essay, and also any images or music that you used. Some of you may not use those extra things, but some of you will. And a 250 word reflection. Okay, so if we go into the actual assignment sheet itself, you have to write this 250 word kind of mini essay, right? A reflection. But what you're addressing is here. Okay, so you're answering these questions. What were you expecting from this course? Did it meet your expectations? How did your project evolve from week to week? How did your notions of message and audience change from how you started out? Okay, so they're questions that are sort of big picture questions about the course, and more importantly, your progress as a writer during the month. This is not the place to complain about the class. Okay, you have a separate activity for that. It's called the Student Course Evaluation. It's one of the activities on the FSO platform. This is a reflective essay where you kind of think about what you've done this month and how you've progressed, okay? But this is important because the questions are contained here. Again, there are about a handful of you who sometimes hand in reflections, but they're not reflections that are answering these questions. Okay, you see that there's something like, what happens is people go to the activity. They see, oh, I need to write a 250 word reflection. So they just write a reflection on their PSA topic or on their PSA project. But no, the actual questions for that reflection are over here. Okay, so keep that in mind. Oh, actually, let me go back to this for 1 second. Be aware of the rubric. You can see there are 10 points for APA formatting, 30 points for the PSA, which may not sound like a lot, only 30 points. You might think, well, I don't really need to try on the PSA then. If I get everything else right, I can still get a bunch of points. But a lot of these other categories tie in with the PSA. For example, do you have a script and lyrics? Yeah, you get some points just for having them. But I also look at the script. Is it doing these things? Does it create interest? Is it mostly clear? Is the language effective? Okay. You get 20 points for that reflection, 20 points for grammar and mechanics. And grammar and mechanics applies to everything. The quality of your reflection. If you have a script, the quality of the writing in the script, and also the PSA itself. So the comic people, here's a big warning to the comic people. Sometimes they think, oh, well, I don't have to write a script, so grammar isn't a big deal for me. And then I look at their comic, and it's filled with errors. Like, even simple words like the is misspelled. It's like TEH or whatever, just because they didn't proofread. You don't want those sorts of errors to appear, so make sure that you're handing in the most polished and professional project that you can. Okay, you also have this document here called the APA Final Project Example. It's not really an example of a project, it's just an example of the template you need to use. And I realized for the first time in months I made a huge mistake because this is already in Microsoft Word format. So you can pretty much just use this. I mean, you can use the template you created for your essay as well. But because I haven't converted this into PDF, it's pretty much as free for you to take and use, which is fine. But you'll have to go into the header and change things, okay? There's nothing more annoying than when I see things handed in and I still see this, your title here, student name, okay? Because that just tells me that you took my template but didn't change anything, okay? So you'll need to replace things. But on page 2, you can see you'll have to replace, you'll have to put your title here. But your link to project, your YouTube link would go here, for example. Your script, if one is needed, would go here. Format it and make it look the best that it can. We haven't really gotten into like how you would properly format a script. but just use common sense. If it's something that lends itself well to paragraph form, then just follow the standard rules we've already covered, right? For double spacing paragraphs, for indenting the opening line of a new paragraph, not hitting enter 2, 4, 10 times between paragraphs, and same thing for the reflection. Oh, and the references page, okay? I've just thrown together a generic references page, so a lot of these things don't have any connection with one another. But here's an example of a photo, an MP3 file, an article from a journal, etc. Okay? And yeah, I've seen times where people they include this references page, and I think, no, 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 these aren't your references. So your references go here, not the generic ones I've put in. And then yeah, finally your reflection, and try to follow the same rules again that we've talked about all month, right? So blah 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 blah, right? You type away, keep going, keep going, keep going, right? Until you, I mean, you hopefully wouldn't just do this to fill up 250 words. Hopefully you're just having a great time expressing your ideas and thoughts. But once you get to, once you're done, you're done. Okay, so you have this empty document that kind of shows you the template of what you should be doing. And it also serves as a nice reminder of what you need to be handing in. Okay, let's finish up this session with the final quiz question. How will your final project show your development as a writer during the month? Be specific. How have you grown during the month, and how will your project reflect this? Okay, so it's sort of touching on the same things you'll have to address in your reflection, but that's fine. Good. You'll get to brainstorm some ideas in the quiz question. Obviously, your quiz question answers tend to be a little bit on the shorter side, so it's not going to be able to replace your reflection, but at least it will get you thinking about these things. So again, you're not just having to come up with answers off the top of your head if you're sort of short for time and you suddenly panic because, oh my gosh, I need to write a reflection. Here, you'll actually encounter some of these ideas right now as you take the quiz. So essentially, how will your final project show me your development? Okay, so normally I ask for questions here, but because this is a re-recording of a session that just went down the tubes and had to be re-recorded, I have no questions to ask. But if you have questions, make sure that you message me, okay? You have until the 21st, Sunday, to work on this. If you need extra time, you got to let me know. If you're having problems, let me know. If you have questions about anything in terms of outside images or music, you're not sure if it's okay or you're not sure how to cite it, get in touch with me. But for now, this will end this session. Thank you so much for attending.